What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Daily Fan Racing Podcast. My name is Ryan Larkin at Larkin8 on Twitter. With me, as always, except for when he takes an off week, Jason, free NASCAR DFS, giving out free content every week for you guys. This week, Gordo's on a little sabbatical. He had a friend come down and visit from Canada, and so he's not with us. So I will take over the hosting duties. I know how much you guys enjoy that. I know how much I enjoy it. So we're going to do hopefully a nice, fun show here as we preview the last cup race before the midway break of the season. We lose Fox, which is wonderful. We get rid of Fox's coverage. We get another road course and head into the road course stretch of the season, which probably isn't a favorite of most people's. But we get a nice, fun weekend. Got a couple of races. We got Xfinity and then Cup Series at Sonoma this week. So let's get into it. Jason, how you doing today, man? You feeling good? You excited for the road course action?
I'm feeling good from a standpoint of it's like summertime in Michigan, so weather's beautiful, a lot of time outside, a lot of fishing, kids playing ball, I mean, it's great in that aspect, but not really not looking forward to the old Sonoma road course this weekend. Road course racing is not really something I've ever really got too excited about unless we got rain in the forecast or like a hairpin turn at like the Indy road course that we normally see. Yeah, chaos. But at least, from a standpoint of like DFS, like they're typically pretty predictable. Aside from having to dodge a random guy getting tossed off the track and into a sand trap or something stupid like that, you can kind of get through it without having to dodge a bunch of whammies. So yeah, it's normally pretty profitable from a DFS standpoint. So I'm looking forward to from that. But yeah, it's just not really my cup of tea on Sunday to watch, man. It's hard to stay awake.
Cool. Well, hopefully it can be exciting enough for you to enjoy the whole show. For me, it's actually a very nostalgic track. Like I don't know what it is about this track, but when I grew up and everything, but there, the late '90s is my bread and butter as a kid. And like I remember Jerry Nadeau, crashing there. I remember all different types of things, and it just something about that track fits. Like NASCAR 98, it was a track I ran on there a lot. Like just something about this whole track has an aura that the other road courses don't for me. So
I'll give you that. I will give you that about Sonoma. It does have that aspect to it. You have memories of the track, but also, yeah, but also it's a track that like I think it's built for NASCARs in a way, right? It's real, so you get a nice clean race. I feel like you get a nice smooth race. Which means you generally get a spread out field and not a ton of excitement. So
yeah, it definitely gives us a spread out field. I feel like so the biggest element to this race, like we talked about with Coda, is the fact that there are no stage breaks anymore. So from 2017 until last year, there were stage breaks at this track. For a couple years, they ran the IndyCar layout that I call where they ran a completely different layout and skipped essentially the best parts of the track, which is turns 4 and 7. And now we're reverting back to essentially what we saw for the first, whatever it was, 20 years at this track in terms of race strategy, race length, and kind of how it should play out. And that has me even more excited. I guess there's, a bit of a nostalgic feel to that as well. But I still think we've seen some good races here back in the day, but it's whether this car or not will hold up, right? Like how will this car put on a show without that Indy turn 1 to really make a mess of everything. So Luke thinks Kyle Larson's strategy was awesome last year. I don't disagree with him. That cost a lot of people a lot of money and himself a win. But that's the biggest thing. That's the difference, right? Like last year they were playing strategy based off of stages, right? They're trying to get a stage point or trying to set themselves up. And that really hurt them long term. And so it's very interesting. It was hard to gain track position last year after that happened for those guys. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out for sure. I think that's kind of the biggest thing. And, I know we got some stuff that we're going to talk about with that in a little bit, but tell me a little bit about Sonoma, what you're expecting, details about the track, stuff like that.
Yeah, at least from what I'm expecting, like going back and just watching, Sonoma, at least last year at Sonoma and just this car in general, this new car, it's very hard to pass the leader on road courses, right? Just like we all are, lamenting about Kyle Larson's pit strategy because we all know that like if he just stays out, like he's going to just run away, just lead every single lap of that race. Like, because I mean, once we saw when Chase Elliott got the leader after that, he led until he had a penalty. And then it was like Suarez assumed the lead on the third stage, and that he was just now all of a sudden road course ringer, won the race. So, like, the way this sets up this year, I mean, without that stage break, that stage caution, I think it really is going to lean into, like, if you get a guy like Larson on the pole, like, it's going to be set up to where you could literally see somebody just dominate this race. I think whoever is going to have that front, gets that pole position, is going to be a real target for fantasy. I know you got some stats that kind of may contradict that a little bit, because we kind of talked about some strategy that might counter that. But if you just look at, recent years and just road courses in general, and the way these races sped out and just how hard it is to pass, I just think we could see a guy just run the whole fuel window to start this race and lead a ton of laps.
Well, let's talk about that. We spent a few minutes before we jumped on here talking about the fuel window, talking about the stage lengths, and trying to pick apart what teams might do, especially mainly the pole sitter, who would be perhaps the most important factor of this slate. Fuel window last year, Pockris tweeted out that was 41 to 44 laps. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's still the case this year, that it's about a 41 to 44 lap window, which means it can be done in 2 stops. Now, tire wear should be somewhat of a factor. There should be some fall off that would tempt people to pit early. And then we're starting to run out, like, well, how do you run that backwards? Can you pit right after the first stage or right before the end of the first stage? And while there's no stage caution, try to jump the leader in the running order, things like that. First stage ends lap 25, which was the lap I pretty much pinpointed for pit stops to start. Even though it's a 44 lap window, I thought the first stop you can try to short pit it and do it in lap 25. Then you have a 30 lap stage, the second stage, which ends at lap 55. Thought you can pit shortly after that and then make it a one-stop race from there. You kind of in the same ballpark after what we talked about, or where do you think that may end up? And then we'll get into the stats I have for everyone after that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely. I think I kind of agree with what you're saying there. It's just what option do they take, right? I mean, I could definitely see a scenario where the pole sitter definitely wants to at least win that stage, and then if he's out front, if nobody's really forcing his hand yet to come in, and everybody's trying to stretch it to do 2 stops, and they want to get to that 30, 35 lap window, then you could see, everybody just kind of land on the same strategy as well. I think that's also possible as like, I mean, it's definitely possible that everybody just kind of runs the same strategy here.
Yeah, for sure. So I put together, and this isn't the best use of stats probably, but I went back and looked at the previous 5 races here at Sonoma before stage racing, because I wanted to see kind of how those races played out, what we saw in terms of crashes. Were they long green flag affairs? Did we see some crashes? And I just compiled some stats. So I'm going to run through them real quick, and then we're going to pretty much jump back into the dominator conversation there before we get to the rest of the show. But basically 5 cautions a race. If you average it out, there was about 6 DNFs per race. There was one large DNF race where there was 9 to 10, depending on. I'm always a guy that if AJ Allmendinger's 10 laps down at a road course, I know there was some issue with him, and I kind of count that as a DNF. Like, that's a play that should have been in the top 10, had an issue, and drops back. But it's a scenario where on average there's about 6 DNFs. You can probably say it's 5 if you take out that large race there. These 2 stats that stuck out to me the most were there were 15 instances in the 5 races of a driver leading 15 plus laps. That was the first one. And then 13 of those dominators started inside the top 10. So if they had speed in qualifying, translated to the race. And then the last part is that the pole sitter on average led only 9.4 laps. And Carl Edwards led 24 of those. So pretty much Carl Edwards was half of this number in those races. And that really stuck out to me. You had guys like Marcus Ambrose on the pole, only led 11 laps. AJ Allmendinger was on pole, led 1 lap. I think he had a mechanical failure. McMurray, I think, got back-to-back poles. He led 9 laps one year and stuff like that. But it wasn't like with the old car, it wasn't this guarantee that they're going to click off lap sled and be that dominator. And that just really stood out to me. But the biggest thing was when I was trying to pick apart the strategy was how can we get to 2 or 3 guys leading sections of this race and compiling points, or will it be one huge dominator like we were kind of trying to get to with the pole sitter or the leader being super hard to pass? So that was principle for what I was going for is like, hey, are we looking at one main dominator, or do we need to try to spread ownership out? Do we need to try to save salary and get more place differential into our lineups? Things like that. I know these are a decade old stats, but does this lead you towards anything, or do you think it's just fun to look at and nothing more?
I think it's great to look at, but I think it kind of leads into, kind of the strategy that I'm going to roll with this week anyway. I still think that it's still going to be a one dominator approach. Not necessarily that it's going to be like a one main guy lead it all, but I think you're going to have one guy that's going to actually pay off. Like, even if I'm sure if you looked at the way these dominator points were spread out in these races, you probably saw one guy get around that like 17 to 18, and the rest of guys get to that like 7 to 9, right? So you're going to have one guy who kind of separates himself and will be able to score along those lines of those position differential plays, because we are going to see guys score position differential. And at least last year, we saw 55 guys score 10 plus position differential points in those 6 races. That same trend kind of held true at COTA this past, the first race of this season. I think we saw 5 guys do similar. So you're going to see a lot of position differential guys. So you're going to need that dominator to score 17, 18, 19 points. I think you're only going to see one of those guys do that, whether he scores 30 to 40 dominator points or he just gets that 18 to 19. I still think it's going to be a one dominator play, and the rest is going to be position differential. If you want to sprinkle in that lower value guy that happens to start inside the top 10, who can finish inside the tip 10 for lower ownership, I think that's your way to get different, and just call it a day.
Let me throw up Luke's question here. He asked, will there be overtime? Question mark. Because COTA was chaos, and that coincides with what you're talking about with the place differential guys. Is COTA was chaos, Indy was chaos. There was a lot of road courses last year, and then COTA started this year. That once there was a caution late, it just became a complete shit show, for lack of a better way of putting it. Like, it just became such a caution-filled event, and guys were running all over each other. Do we think that happens here at Sonoma?
It's possible, right? I think we saw in 2021 we had a pretty clean race up to about I think there's one incident on track caution, and then we had like lap 72 a car stalled, then it was all hell broke loose, a lot of cautions. I mean, that can happen to any race, but I still think even without all those incidents, you're still going to have guys that are going to move forward and pick up 10 to 15 position for the ones just over the course of the race. Strategy is going to come in. Guys are going to short pit, find track position, gain those spots. So I think even without, like, now what that may have done, it may have get multiple guys like, your Harrison Burtons and your Todd Gillilands, all that, who kind of, we had 3 guys with price 5,000 who made it. You're going to need chaos for something that happened, but you're still going to have guys who are going to start in that mid 20 range, who's going to pick up 15 position differential points, who's going to score well in a race where we're not going to be chasing a ton of dominator points.
Yeah, and that was honestly what I saw even through all the results from last year all the way back to 2012 races, was in the middle of the field, there's a lot of jumbling up. Like, yeah, the fast cars kind of made their way to the front no matter what, but pit strategy comes in play, and no-time caution. We averaged 5 cautions in non-stage races here before. That's once every, 15, 20 laps or so. We're talking about pretty consistent cautions, and I think that could be the case this weekend. Get a little off cycle in terms of pitting. You could jump the field, and all of a sudden you got a guy sitting there with 15 dominator or place differential points, and they're don't even have to be that good because it's impossible to pass with this car type thing. So I'm definitely in on the place differential guys. I'm probably in on the one dominator type deal. I definitely I'm talking about a top tier price guy. I know you are as well, but I'm very interested in paying down everywhere else and trying to get a nice well-rounded lineup as a result. But with that said, let's go ahead and get it to our drivers to watch. We'll start with you. Top tier driver to watch, Jason, for the – let me do one thing real quick. All right. I need Gordo here to do all this stuff, but since he's not, I caught myself. Do us all a big favor. Subscribe to the channel for us. Like the video. Help us promote this thing. Tell a friend. And we're close. We're almost to 250, almost to 300. Like Jason and I said, we'll do some giveaways at 300 subscribers. So help us climb there. If you haven't already subscribed, do that for us. Jason, back to what we're talking about. Driver to watch for you in the top tier.
Yeah, I'm going to climb way out on a limb on this pick, right? I don't know if the limb can support my weight. It's so far out in the limb I'm going. I'm going to go with a guy not a lot of people have talked about yet this week is Kyle Larson. It's a big secret. He hasn't been that good this year. I think he's going to turn around. No, obviously he's been very fast. Like you've seen it. He's got the best car week in and week out. I'm done fading the guy. I'm probably just going to start jamming in every single week. He's if you look at like Sonoma is probably his best road course in his career. He's never started worse than fifth here in his career.
Does he have 5 straight poles here? Is that what I
5
said?
straight pole races? I think I've seen that somewhere on Twitter this week. But yes, he's got 5 poles. Obviously, he's led laps in the last 2 races here. Dominated from the pole in 2021. Would have dominated from the pole last year if it wasn't for that dumb strategy. If he goes out and wins the pole for the 6th straight time, like, I think you guys have to lock Larson into like every single lineup you play this week. So, I mean, that's what I'm looking for. I want to see, like, if he starts on the pole
Variance
again.
doesn't exist.
It does. I mean, the smart move would be just to lock him in. Like, he would probably just going to run away with this race if that happens. That would be what the smart money would be at. But to be fair, like, that might be something you might say about any pole sitter. Like, whoever gets the pole, you might say, I'm going to lock him in, So, but if it's Larson, yeah, probably gonna have to go and jam him.
All right, so I'm gonna pretty much piggyback right off what you just did. I'm gonna go ahead and put the second highest price driver up here. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the other guy that everyone's gonna be on this week and that everyone's gonna expect to dominate. That's Tyler Reddick. So Reddick absolutely smashed the field at COTA. Like, it wasn't even really close. It was kind of an ass beating the whole race. So that's gonna be in a lot of people's minds, right? Like, it with a new team this year. All that road course speed from last year carried over really, really well, and he was able to crush. I think there might be some fadeability with Tyler Reddick this week, and that's more of why he's my driver to watch. I think HMS is going to be strong. I think your Kyle Larson pick's probably right. But a lot of love is going to be thrown at Tyler Reddick's way. COTA versus Sonoma, they're different road courses. They race different. It's a different situation, and I think this could be a spot where Tyler Reddick gets a lot of love and just doesn't deliver for the price tag. And, when we're talking a little bit ago, one dominator, I'm really into a balanced lineup. You got guys like AJ Allmendinger, Austin Cindric down there almost at 9K, who are probably going to be running top 8, top 6, most likely in this style of race. I think there's a lot of value out there, and I can build a more well-rounded lineup with a bunch of guys finishing towards the top than trying to chase dominator points with a driver who might not lead for us, who, might just be able to get some leverage that way. Now, keep in mind, I'm obviously doing that with a driver who just crushed the field. So it's a risk. It's a Thursday night risk of what could be the best driver on the slate if he qualifies on the pole and goes out there and dominates, right? So I'm very interested to see how he practices and qualifies. I don't think he'll have that half a second lead like he did at COTA. I think he may be right in line with Kyle Larson, with Chase Elliott potentially. And then I'm very, very interested in what Kyle Busch does, because he was second at COTA and looked very, very strong there. So I think there could be a few drivers that can outduel him. And Toyota as a whole haven't been good on road courses at all. So there could be that drop back to reality for Reddick. And that's something I'm really interested in this week for sure.
I like that call out because he is going to be popular because like you said, with this dominating performance he just had, how many touts out there are going to not write up Tyler Reddick this week? Like, everybody's going to write him up at least a section, and like you said, I mean, there's so many guys, like you got a hungry Chase Elliott there. He's going to come in off of being suspended, in a track that obviously he expects to win on a road course. So yeah, I think there's a lot of contenders out there. Yeah. I like that call.
Thank you. I'm going to kick back to you. There's no one else here, so it's just me and you. I'm going to let you go with your mid-tier driver to watch. I'm very interested in what your reasoning is, because I was very high on this driver going into the COTA, and he let me down. He did not look that good.
He let you down, huh?
He let me down. He didn't deliver what I was looking for. I was speed-wise, I didn't think he was what he should have been. But
he finished 8th.
But that's carnage at the end.
He started 32nd, finished 8th.
I don't look for what an end result is, because it can be a skew, right? Like, we can watch 20 guys wreck into turn 2, and he did a great job battling through. But throughout the race, I was like, the whole weekend, I was expecting him to just be a top 5, top 8 car. Right. And Keselowski fell into that realm as well. Like, I expected Roush Fenway to be there, and they weren't as fast as I thought. Where are you at with this team?
Yeah, well, I am going to say, like, he didn't run well at COTA, the year prior either, in 2022 either. And then he's turned around and backed it up with a really strong performance at Sonoma. I mean, the dude was lights out on road courses in 2022. I know you all went to the well, at COTA. 5 top 10s last year, tied Chase Elliott with the best average finish last year on road courses. this race, like I said, this race last year was a breakout performance for him on road courses. Started third, spent most of the time running at the front of the field, spent more time running towards the front of the field than anyone. Everybody else kind of had issues. He stayed up there, had the most fast laps, and he only led 4 laps in that race. Finished second in that race. Then he went on to rip off 5 straight top 10s on road courses, which includes COTA, which I know he had a terrible run at, according to you. But yeah, he's still,
It wasn't terrible. He ended
it
up being
wasn't what you expected, right? But I think maybe that's a warning for you if he starts like 30th and doesn't show up with speed. Maybe you do say, okay, maybe he doesn't got it together. But if he goes out and shows speed in practice and qualifies top 5 at this price tag, I think you're going to have to say, okay, Buescher's got this week, like this. And RFK's had speed, in short flat tracks. I feel like, Brad Keselowski's been some contenders, has run fast up front, just haven't finished. But yeah, I like Buescher for this price. I mean,
okay. So my recollection of 2022 was that Buescher was amazing on road courses, and I missed him at Sonoma, and that hurt, and I was not happy about that. But I drilled him the rest of the year, and it went really well the rest of the year. Right, he ran pretty much top 8 for the most part at most of the road courses speed wise. I was worried from the speed from both him and Keselowski because both those guys were top 10 cars after that. From Sonoma on road courses, they both look good. I know I locked him in at Road America. He ran top 8 the entire day. Like I remember that, but then I remember at COTA where it was like a chalk driver starting towards the back. Okay, he gets to the front. Great. But I wanted to see the real pace from them, and I felt like they dropped back. And Ford as a whole was kind of slow at COTA, so I don't know if that's a Ford thing. I don't know the circumstances behind it. Because even Cindric, who was okay in qualifying, kind of dropped back. It felt like they were just a step off everyone else. I don't know. I'm very interested. I'm interested to watch him. It's a driver to watch. I might be on the other side of that though. So this might be our first disagreement of the night.
Okay, well, I'm trying to pull up to see what his actual results were on at COTA in 2022. I'm pretty sure it was pretty abysmal though. So
was it really?
I don't know.
I can pull it up real quick.
My Excel is not populating for whatever reason.
Your Excel sheet's too big. That's the issue.
Probably, I got a lot of shit in there.
21st at COTA, the first race. So you're right there, and or at least in terms of the result, and that's where it gets hard. I wish I had average running position in front of us right now. That would obviously be a better tell. But second here at Sonoma, 6th at Road America, 10th at Indy, even at the end of that nonsense, 9th at the Glen. So and 6th at the Roval. So across the board towards the end of last year, he was just clicking off top 10s on road courses, which is a really good sign. So definitely a great pick, and only 7,900. So the value, if he is a top 10 car, is fantastic. Now my value plays kind of a similar mindset as you. I'm not going to – you can be contrarian to me like I was just now to you, but I'm going with Michael McDowell. 7,400. I don't understand why he's 7,400. Seems like he's about $1,000 cheaper than he should be on a road course. Kind of the same situation with Michael McDowell. He ran towards the front all race here last year. He looked really, really strong, and that carried over Road America. I mean, obviously McDowell comes from a road racing background, so it's a little bit easier to trust him in this spot over most drivers in the field, but he was able to really deliver good performances. 3rd in this race, 8th at Road America, 8th at Indy, 6th at the Glen. He was fast in the rain at the Glen too, drove to the lead, I believe. So I just really like Michael McDowell on road courses. I think he's a guy that can run top 10. And 7,400, like it just feels too cheap for me. I don't really have anything else special to say. I think he'll run top 15, and that will probably pay off the salary as long as there's not a bunch of negative place differential. So I think that's a really good salary saver right there. He's going to be able to fill up a lineup pretty often for me, and I'll be on him a lot, I believe.
Yeah, I can't get contrarian with you there on McDowell. I would have talked about McDowell too, but I chose Buescher. Yeah, McDowell's a great pick. I think he was even running well at COTA before got involved in the carnage right at COTA. Dude, I believe he gets spun out.
That COTA race,
he like come all the way back through the field after getting spun out and still finish like 6th or 8th or something at at Coda. Yeah, so yeah, he's definitely a solid pick. So
Yeah,
you know,
he was pissed off at the end of that race, wasn't he, for getting
yeah,
spun out or something?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but so was like everyone, so it's kind of hard to go off
Yeah,
that.
another guy I just want to I know we didn't talk about it, just want to touch on in this mid range, who I know a lot of people are going to overlook this week, is Kevin Harvick. I think is a guy who should probably get some attention this week in this mid range at Sonoma. Not a guy you think about on road courses, but Sonoma is a track he's pretty good at, especially a track like this that you have to conserve the tires on. We saw him run towards the front much of that race last year here at Sonoma. I think he was top 3 before he had some pit crew issue, dropped him back, and he still managed to drive through the field in the last well, not through the field, but gained 5 spots or so in the last stage, which is obviously, a lot when you're talking about moving to the top 5 on that Sonoma, the way road courses are. So, yeah.
Yeah, Coop's right about Indy here with Buescher. He caught fire. I think he was the first guy to have that problem where his car caught fire in the middle of the race, and he was 2-3 laps down, had to battle back for that top 10, which was crazy. I was heavy on him in that race, and he caught fire like
no. Well, there you go. I mean, that's
so.
That explains why he wasn't that fast.
Yeah. So Indy was a weird one for him, but I mean, Buescher's probably going to be pretty good. I was just trying to be contrarian and give something to talk about, if I'm being honest. But let's get to it. Now we got something we could really get at each other about in this low tier, this value tier here. Who's your cheap driver that you're attacking this week, Jason? Or you're watching? I shouldn't say
I'm gonna watch. Here's the thing: like the value this week, when you look at the tier, there's just not a lot really. I feel like to be too excited about down below, the 6K range when you start looking at it. And we talked about probably wanting to get pretty balanced this week as far as our builds. We're not gonna have to jam a bunch of dominators in. Obviously, that changes if we get a bunch of position differential plays to the top. You're might gonna have to find some guys cheap. One guy who I think is pretty cheap, Austin Dillon. I know it's crazy going to Austin Dillon on a road course, but he was feast or famine last year on road courses, right? He had 2 top 10s, 2 finishes worse than 30th. He finished 11th in this race last year, and he started 13th, but when he restarted at the in that last stage, he was restarted, I think, with like 22 laps to go or something like that. Started was like 19th, 20th, and ended up driving up through the field and finished 11th in that race. So this is another track guy who's good at taking care of his tires. And actually, Sonoma is not a bad track for him. He has 6 finishes of 18th or better at Sonoma. In 8 career starts, and he's never finished worse than 24th at Sonoma. I mean, that's not bad for a $6,100 price tag.
Yes, you're right. There's stats.
It's $6,100, and he's.
61, there's not going to be a lot of options. You mentioned there's not a lot to love down there, by any means. And if he was
running top 10 in Coda for much of that race, just earlier this year before he found trouble late in that race, like he was running top 5, top 3 in that race in Coda.
The RCR cars are very fast on road courses. I mean, period. We can say it was Tyler Reddick last year, but Kyle Busch finished second at Coda, right? Like he was just as quick. So yeah, I mean the car I think will be a lot better than the driver, but it may be good enough for a top 15 finish, and which he did a bunch over the past couple of years on road courses, solid top 15 finishes. So definitely a good option. I don't like Austin Dillon on road courses. Man, I do not like it. But
he's not sexy. He's not going to have massive upside, right? But like I think before when we'd have this conversation, I think he was like priced at 72, 7,400, where you need a little bit more out of him. You just need him to freaking, get top 15 for you here. I don't think you need much out of him at this price tag. So
yeah,
but with everybody else around there, like you're gonna like roll. I don't know. Let's see who you're rolling the dice with. Let's hear. You're probably going higher. You're going up.
There was like one guy I wanted to bring up, and I wasn't even that happy talking about him. It was Justin Haley. I was looking at Justin Haley. I was like, God, okay, yeah, I get it. He'll start 20th. He'll run 20th. I just wasn't excited about it.
Too.
And so I said, screw it. I'm going to go with a guy that I think is actually a good road course racer, who I think can actually be low owned, very low owned, who's kind of battling against a situation where he's getting booted out of his ride.
Ooh,
and I'm going with Todd Gilliland. 5,200. So first thing, 5,200.
Lowest prices driver, yeah.
Super cheap. He's in a Rick Ware racing car. Let's start by saying that he's not in his normal car. Zane Smith getting the preferential treatment here. So you got Todd Gilliland dropping down to a Rick Ware racing car. Obviously, probably going to be a little peeved but he's a really good, solid road course racer. And I think for one lap speed, he may not be great. I think he probably qualifies towards the back. But when you look at his road coursing history throughout all of NASCAR, through back to the trucks and all that, he's really, really solid. And I think that's something that can deliver. He obviously won COTA in the Truck Series in 2021. You look at him at past races in the Cup Series, he's looked pretty solid overall, which is very, very awesome. He was 10th at COTA earlier this year. Hard to read too much into that because, again, COTA is a mess of a race, but he was 4th at the Indy Road Course. Him and Harrison Burton delivered there, both at their starting towards the front. I think he's a guy that can run 20th to 22nd, maybe crack the top 20 with a little help. And for 5,200, if I can get 25 to 30 points and it allows me to maybe get a 2-dominator type lineup, if it allows me to spend a little bit more towards the top, maybe I can get a Larson, AJ Allmendinger, and the Cindric or something like that, where I'm getting 3 of the top 5 finishers or 3 of the top 5 plays, then that really interests me with Todd Gilliland. So it's a bit of a salary saving thing. It's a bit of a Todd Gilliland's decent on road courses that I think also plays into that. And quite frankly, let's be honest, Rick Ware racing's not that far off the pace. Like, they just haven't been. You see these guys contending. JJ Elliott was like top 20 the other week at Darlington or whatever track it was. Maybe it was Charlotte. I'm thinking, yeah, Coke 600. He was like top 20, and it wasn't being a lot of carnage. It was good pace. So I think they're a lot closer, and I think he can make up a few positions on his own versus the field.
Joey Hand had a decent run in a Rick Ware car here at this track here last year. I don't know if Todd Gilliland's Joey Hand, but yeah, he's definitely a solid road course racer. And I guess, and if you're buying into his talent as a road course driver, I mean, this is it's always been my thought is like a good road course driver can make up for terrible equipment, and like it more so on a road course than most other tracks. Like, being a good road course driver, we've seen time and time again, good road course drivers do wonderful things in low bar equipment. So.
Yeah, for sure. And all this really, clicked in my head that he was good at road courses when Noah Gragson wiped him out. They were both running for Kyle Busch in the Truck Series, and Gragson wiped him out going to the last corner, and it kind of always stuck with me. I wouldn't remember that race if Gragson didn't wipe him out, right? Like, if that wreck didn't happen and he wasn't pissed off that his teammate just wrecked him, took him out of the playoffs and all that stuff, it wouldn't have stuck with me. But literally, like, his first road course race, he was going to win it. And it's just something that I've always followed, and he's always looked decent. And so, I'm interested to see what he looks like, because quite frankly, they may be better. Rick Ware Racing might be better than Legacy and the guys that they've been beating the last few weeks. I mean, we've seen it. Chase Briscoe's running 32nd, and he's behind the Rick Ware car. So maybe there's just a little love for Todd Gilliland. He can get a nice solid finish.
I guess the reason that like I would be against a Todd Gilliland here though would be is like I just don't think his upside is really there. I think you're relying on him to like just hit value. I feel like at this price tag, and I don't think you're going to need to go to a guy at 5,000 to just hit value with the way this. If we're thinking it's going to be a one dominator, like I said, unless we get a bunch of position differential up top, and we got to pay up for that. I don't feel like it's going to be a race where like, oh, I got to squeeze. You're going to be looking more like if he's optimal, I think it's going to be because he's like top 15 and actually puts up a big performance, right? At 5,200. I don't think it's because like we needed the salary and he got there for us.
Okay, fair enough. I don't disagree. But man, I need something to talk about down here.
I know it was rough.
All right. Go ahead, Jason. Who are you picking to win this race? Are you going outside the box, or are you pretty much just going?
Man, I'm just gonna stay on the inside lane here, shortest distance around. I'm just gonna take Kyle Larson. I'm just gonna line it up so that way, like if I'm right, I'm just right about everything, and it's the easiest pick ever. But I'm sure, I mean, we'll see. But yeah, Kyle Larson, for all the reasons I said earlier, pretty good here. I think he's gonna start towards the front, fastest car, probably gonna win this race.
Isn't the rule with Kyle Larson is when he's going to be popular and when he's supposed to be good?
Yeah, he's supposed to fade him when he's going to be popular and play.
Yeah, and then when he's going to suck, it's like, nope, you got to pound him.
That's why I'm not very good at DFS, if you haven't noticed.
Oh, wow. Don't tell everyone else that. Like, oh, God. You've had actually some good lineups last few weeks. You've been pretty close to a couple takedowns, so don't fool the people. You're pretty good. So I'm actually surprised I was able to get someone who I think is probably a top 5 pick for the win at this number, and that's the biggest reason why I'm giving him out. But AJ Allmendinger is my pick to win, plus 1,600. Just seemed kind of wrong to me. I think he'll be a top 5 car. As long as he's in the mix, he'll be able to contend and potentially steal a win here late. At the Cup level, obviously, he hasn't been a race winner regularly like at the Xfinity level. The field's a lot tougher. You got better teams and stuff to contend with. But he won the Indy Road Course, had a little help with Hamlin and Briscoe getting into it, but won that race. He's looked good, pretty much top 5 car most races here. Should have won COTA last year. So I just feel like he'll be at the front. And plus 1,600 is kind of juicy. I feel like that number should be closer to a plus 1,000, maybe plus 900. So, and maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe some real betting people will call me an idiot and whatnot. But I just feel like AJ's a really top contender for a race win and like the number.
You aren't concerned that this is not a very good track for him? I don't know. I've seen that a few times on Twitter as well. That's in the narrative. I've seen that this is not AJ Allmendinger's best track.
Yeah, like I was telling you,
11th here with no power steering last year.
Oh God, yeah, don't remind me of that. 2015, he qualified on a pole, led 1 lap, and had a mechanical failure. Like, what? Okay, so he's not good here.
No, that's a terrible. Look, you see his average running position was terrible.
I just feel like sometimes people look at stats and like, oh, look at their average finishes. It's bad. And it's like, yeah, what's the freaking context?
The stats only say so much. You're right.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got to watch the races and kind of know what happened. Yeah, that's why
sometimes
I try to always watch past races before it. I mean, you learn so much from just watching the previous race or the last 2 races of just how it flows. You know.
Yeah, like let's look at this right for what it is. Since you brought it up. Power steering issue last year, engine issue the race before that here, 35th the race before that. Obviously, he's not running 35th on skill. 37th and 37th after starting first and second.
Yeah, he's terrible.
But he's trash. Like that seems like he's just trash, and you shouldn't play him.
Curse.
What's the context, right? So I think that's the biggest thing. Ignore the average finish, ignore the race results in those races because it's not real. That's not the real expectation.
A lot of people build lineups around that stuff, though, so maybe he's going to get overlooked this week because of it.
Yeah, love it.
That's why his number is probably 1,600 plus 600, right? If he's going to a track he's won at, I bet you it's not plus 1,600.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much where they are. Andrew's got a good question here. Let's wrap up with this. We'll add this in and kind of wrap it up. But Toyota was awful here last year. Do you think they can rebound and be better?
Yeah, I think we can. And we saw them kind of rebound, at COTA, at least not, I don't know how the whole organization did. I mean, we saw Reddick kind of, dominate at COTA. So I think we think that Toyota's kind of found their speed. I still don't know. Like, I still don't have a whole lot of desire to play guys like Hamlin, Truex, Bell this week. Like, I'm going to have to see a lot of them in practice, right? I mean, I don't, like the way they're priced at, unless they're going to offer up position differential, like even then, like if they qualify, 15, 16, like what's
tough.
there?
It's tough.
What's
like
there?
Truex started at the back last year and finished at the back. Now he was going to finish in the teens. There was pit strategy and stuff involved that kind of relegated the entire Gibbs team to the back. But speed wise, they were awful. They were barely top 20 cars at a lot of points. So I'm always going to favor Truex on a road course, especially this one. This is his best one. The tire wear definitely helps with that. And the thing that sucks is the tires are so hard right now that it's not like they were back in the day where there was a lot of tire wear. Like there was a lot of fall off. I don't think there was anywhere near as much fall off as back then, but there will be some. He still will be able to manage it. He'll still do decent. I'm interested in a guy like Truex, but I'm not interested in Toyota as a whole. I'm kind of with you there. I think most likely, aside from Reddick, they're not going to be very, very good in terms of top end speed. And honestly, I don't anticipate Reddick being good at top end speed. So I'm kind of going to be off Toyota as a whole. But they were so bad last year that even if they rebound a little bit, they can contend for top tens. I mean, they were awful last year. So we'll see on that. That's it. Let's wrap this thing up. I'm going to do one more plug here. Scrolling at the bottom, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video for us, help us grow the channel. I know I asked you to tell a friend earlier. Since you've already done that in the past 20 minutes, go ahead and tell your mom, tell your sister, brother, whoever, aunt, uncle, get into Reddit, tell them, whatever. Just tell people, let them know we're here. But that's it. Jason, last week, or last race before we get an off week. I think we're probably going to take next week off. I think I'm making an executive call. We're going to take the weekend off, just like NASCAR is. I'm going to spend the night with my wife instead of on here with you. She's better looking, by the way. And so this is your last chance for 2 weeks to make a statement. Any last words? And if not, tell them where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, I am going to I'm going to make a little statement is I'm going to be reining in my my exposure and fandom, my exposure, not my fandom, my DraftKings exposure to Ross Chastain for the foreseeable future until I see some fire out of the guy. Like I think you might have been right last week. I hated to see like he, had a little incident with McDowell, and it was like it just looked like his just spirit was gone and just, just dropped to the back. It was just it's hard to watch. I think I'm gonna just, he's costing me a lot of money the last few weeks. I'm gonna stop playing Ross Chastain until he gives me until I see that fire back. So other than that, follow me on Twitter at DFS NASCAR. You guys know where you can find my stuff. I should have my article out this weekend at rumtoursports.com Sunday morning. Be fun. Like I said, road courses may not be exciting, but we typically turn a solid profit on them. So looking forward to it.
Cool, man. I dude, I was so loaded up on Chastain last week. I was like, this.
Oh, you were too. Yeah.
He's gonna run top 6. This will be great. It was a FanDuel play more than anything. I was like, give me a nice solid top 6 here, Ross. You're cheap. Like this would be perfect. He was just cheap enough, and boy, did he suck. And it wasn't like, hey, he was just bad, and he lost positions every restart. He was getting outrun by Eric Jones and back half.
Ruined so many Busch and Blaney lineups for me. Ruined so many.
Oh man,
it was
he
so
was
hard.
he was.
I had so much Busch, so much Blaney, but I had them all like paired with Chastain, which was freaking terrible. Somehow I didn't play any of them together. Like I don't know how I didn't play Blaney and Busch together in a lineup. Granted, I don't play a ton of lineups. I played 5, but still, like I don't know why. I thought I built that combination, but I guess I didn't.
Next time. All right, I'm gonna sign off here for myself. Andrew had one more comment, and I completely agree. We've been seeing the DFR emojis near the top of the contest lately. We absolutely have. It's awesome to see. I love having a group of people that put that up there. If you're a DFR member and you need an avatar for your DraftKings or FanDuel accounts, let me know. I'll shoot one over to you. That way we can get more people up towards the front, and it makes us look really awesome when we're up there together. So
if I switch mine, will I win?
What's that?
If I switch mine, will I win?
Maybe. Will won 20 grand, and I was like, you gonna change it finally? He's like, yeah, okay, I will. He's like, but if it's bad luck, I'm changing it back instantly. So I don't know if he still has it or not because he didn't win 2 slates in a row. So
terrible.
But yeah, we're doing good. Everything's been going great. Dustin is gonna take the weekend off. He had a death in the family, so he's going to spend time with his family and kind of relax. Make sure you send him some condolences and everything. But that means I'm back doing a Cup breakdown. So everything this weekend, Xfinity and Cup is all me. A little extra work this weekend, but it gets to be my baby again. And so if you're interested, we will have full breakdowns, rankings, projections, podcasts. I'll do podcasts for both races, I think, this week. Just full coverage of both races for you at DailyFanRacing.com. We have a free Discord. We have a free newsletter that's out. Dustin got that out last night or 2 nights ago, excuse me. We'll have this show. We have a lot of stuff out there, so definitely check all that stuff out. Subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends, like we said. And that's it. I appreciate you guys checking us out. 42 minutes was a little bit longer than we should have gone, but it's fun hanging out with Jason. But best of luck this weekend. Off next week. Then we'll come back when racing picks up again after the break. Thank you guys, and have a good one.
See you then. Good luck.